As odd as it may seem, my TR, or Team Rubicon story, began 25 years ago. It was way back then that my battle and best friend, Bobby Williams, and I were deployed to a little-known city, at least to most Americans, called Mogadishu, Somalia. I would learn a lot about the Army, deployment life, and even more about myself over the next 6 months. Both Bobby and the Dark Continent were both dedicated, persistent, and invaluable teachers. One was forgiving, the other not so much. We were inseparable. Good thing, because this was all or nothing. We would survive or die together. What do you know? There really were starving children in Africa, and that was the least of their problems. It is truly heartbreaking to see the depths of humanity that man is capable of. We were the enemy. We expected the worst imaginable torture and death, but they had no reservations in treating their own that way either. Even the children. 2 combat tours and 1 divorce later, I was medically discharged after 15 years of service. I had been put out to pasture, as they say. Here's a check, good luck, and goodbye. I was struggling hard to adjust in the civilian sector, but managed to land the job with Homeland Security training veterans and first responders. Thank God for small miracles. At the end of the day, I never really did stray far from the tribe. My wife Helen and I have authored 4 books to date, and our daughter Abigail has published one as well when she was 10. And in one of them, I call the story that you're about to hear, Resurrection. Somewhere around the time that Jake was in Haiti, Bobby's wife Melissa hit me up on Facebook. Awkward. The only thing we had in common was Bobby, and he had passed away 16 years before. After about 15 minutes of very confusing an awkward conversation, we figured out that the whole thing was a lie and that Bobby was in fact alive and well in Phoenix, Arizona. We lived right next door in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and in 2 days Bobby was at my doorstep and we had a huge tearful reunion. We picked up right where we left off and really enjoyed catching up. My wife was delighted for me, and in no time at all, my kids were calling him Uncle Bobby. 3 months later, my family and I moved to Arizona to be closer to Bobby. This was a gift. It was a gift of time that I thought we had both been denied. But I wasn't quite out of the dark yet. God had a plan, and that included bringing Bobby back from the dead, as it were. You see, for the last quarter of a century, I had blamed myself for the entirety of the Black Hawk Down incident. Not very realistic, but those demons are more tenacious than we give them credit for. One morning, while hosting a combat trauma healing group, myself and 5 other combat vets from different eras were engaged in a conversation about self-forgiveness, the moral injuries of war, and such. And after about 2 hours of conversation, and in the last 10 minutes of our group together, it dawned on me. It really wasn't my fault. I didn't even realize that I had blamed myself and carried that weight for a quarter of a century. And my battle, Bobby, who was there then and who is here now, was right here to help get me through it. It was a real breakthrough, and it gave me peace. The kind of peace that you don't get from anywhere but God. The love that I have for my warfighter family is uncompromising. And when those brave souls fell, I felt that perhaps I wasn't able to love them enough to be able to save them. But the real truth is that because of the depth of that love that I and so many others feel and still do, the hurt locker you find yourself in can be particularly brutal. A few weeks later, I was sitting in my garage, the Warrior Chapel, and Bobby and I were drinking coffee like we pretty much do every morning. He was telling me of his latest op with TR and about this fiery little Puerto Rican guy who served as his logs chief at Hurricane Harvey, as well as attended a recent ICS class out of state. Bobby would tell this guy about a guy he served with in Mogadishu, and this little guy would tell Bobby stories about a guy who served with him in Iraq 15 years ago. Over the course of the next 6 months somehow, neither one of them dropped the name of the guys they were talking about to each other. Funny thing, because they were both talking about me. Small world. And only within our warfighter family do such awesome things happen. You can't make this stuff up. One morning, Bobby mentions to me how this funny little guy talking about his service with First ID in Ramadi in 03. He said his name is Ozzy something or other. I said, Ozzy Newen? Bobby's jaw dropped as he asked me how in the world I knew that. And I told him that Ozzy was my supply guy in Iraq. We called him on the spot and all laughed out loud as we picked up things right where we left off. As you might expect, both of them immediately started hounding me about joining Team Rubicon. It didn't take long to drink the Kool-Aid.
Attention!
It's been 25 years since Mogadishu, and today, the Quattro de Mayo, Bobby and I are deploying once again. What an amazing opportunity this is. I am so stoked about this, I can't even tell you. Bad boys, what you gonna do? So cool. We're taking 18-mile hill now. 18 mile? Yep. You want to cross the line to 18 mile? We will take this hill. So cool.